Okay, so today is lecture 2 of chapter 1. So we want to, for those that are remote learning today, give you a briefing of today's notes. For the most part, the notes are relatively short. So we'll just go through these relatively quickly here. Let me back this up just a little bit here so you can see that. Sorry about that. Okay, so everybody should be able to see that, and you should be able to view this, and you should be able to write this down as you hear me lecture. That's got everything. Sorry for the crooked writing, what have you, but anyway, it'll all work out. All right, so yesterday we talked about the particular Mesoamerican tribes. We've got to go across seas and sort of get a little bit of content development as far as and background understanding as far as the Spanish is concerned. So what were the factors that allowed or created within the Spanish to want to come to the New World? So yesterday was Mesoamerica. These short notes are about just why the Spanish did what they did. And then tomorrow we will look at the Spanish conquistadors. We'll give you some specifics about the conquistadors. So the first thing we want to talk about is what is referred to as Reconquista. Spain, for a period of time, is going to experience oppression. In order to understand the oppression, you got to go all the way back to the 7th century Saudi Arabia. The development of the Muslim faith. A merchant known as Muhammad claimed he was visited by the archangel Gabriel, and the angel revealed unto him the words of God. This series of revelations were known as the Quran. One thing that is characteristic or notable of Arabs were they were heavily involved in territorial expansion. So once their religion was developed, their primary goal was to expand from a religious perspective. And indeed they did in July 7/11. 7,000 Arabs will make their way across the Strait of Gibraltar and would invade Europe. And in 4 years' time, they would colonize all of Spain. So from a Christian perspective, you got a real problem on your hand, especially as far as Europe is concerned during this time period, because they are losing a lot of territory to a new faith that is gaining ground and persons in a hurry. So the Christian has to step up, so to speak, and indeed they did. In 1095, Crusades began aiming to withdraw Muslims from a Holy Land. Some say that had there not been a Christian crusade, that the way that the Muslim religion was growing and expanding, it's possible that they would have taken over all of the world. Had there not been a crusade, especially would have made its way into North America. So from the Christian angle of this thing, it was their efforts in the Crusades to help, what you would say, slow down the Muslim faith. So the Christians had always held on to the far north of Spain. When you go into 11th and through the 13th centuries, many Christian kings will make progressive steps to take back Spain. And so there is a time period, of course, where a tremendous amount of war and opposition is taking place. Much of the Muslim will lose territory in Spain as a result of these crusades, but 70,000 Muslims will hold Grenada for another 200 years. So now that Christian religion has sort of regained Spain, Spain at a particular time, or this time, was split into two. You had right in half. Castile on the east and Aragon on the west. And as you see on the whiteboard here, Isabella was going to inherit the eastern part, and Ferdinand was going to inherit the western part. So you're going to have sort of two different leaders in Spain, but that's going to all change because in 1469 they would marry and Spain would once again be reunified. A year later, the Muslim would lose Granada, and so now we see that Spain is once again operating, I guess, under Christian normalcy, or the way that they would interpret it. So they're able to gain back. So what does this do to Spain's nationalism? It blows their nationalism up. They now say to themselves that, we have the ability to, defeat any hostility that is going to come in and take what rightfully, or what we think rightfully, belongs to us. So as a result of the Reconquista, they now have a huge sense of pride. They also have extreme motivation now because of this pride to go and explore, to go and look into new territories in hopes of new natural resources. You got to remember this, that Spain is now putting, their hat in the ring, so to speak, as far as from an exploration perspective, because at this time, really, Portugal is the mastermind behind the navigation and exploration. But now Spain is going to come into competition here, and now it turns into being Spain versus Portugal as far as the Western Hemisphere is concerned. So that is just a few notes there, just to sort of lay the foundation as far as how Spain is able to throw their hat in to the ring as far as North America and even the Western Hemisphere. All right, so I'm going to switch gears now, and I'm going to put the notes back up as far as on the smartboard. So there again, here is the next slide in which you will need to take these notes here. The question says, how did the marriage of Ferdinand and Isabella alter world affairs? Really, that was answered in the notes on the whiteboard. So as long as you have that or taken down, you should be in good shape. So there again, you see late 15th century, a unification of Spain and the Reconquista, and now it creates a rivalry with Portugal, which meant new resources of wealth were vital. There again, now we have Columbus, the Italian, which convinced the Spanish monarchs to underwrite the voyage. Because Isabella and Ferdinand have now unified Spain, and you have individuals like Columbus pressing them for exploration purposes, there again, they're going to be all on board for that. So Columbus convinced Isabella and Ferdinand to fund his expedition. Mr. Stewart? No, you're fine. Okay. Okay. Sure. Yeah. You wouldn't have her number, right? Okay. Okay. Hang on just a second. Hang on. Let me get. All right. I'm ready. 2091. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, sorry about that. I was on the phone with Tina. So there again, his goal was to reach the East, Columbus, the East Indies, by sailing west, thus bypassing the around Africa route that Portugal had already monopolized. You'll see a visual of that, I think, here in just a few minutes. He misjudged the size of the earth, though thinking it 1/3 the size of what it really was. So after 30 days or so at sea, when he struck land, he assumed he had made it to the East Indies and therefore mistook the people as Indians. And this spawned the following systems. Europe would provide the market capital technology, Africa would provide the labor, and the New World would provide the raw materials. You got to remember, these developed nations are operating under mercantilism. Mercantilism is where they're going out into these other territories, extracting raw materials, okay? Taking those raw materials back to the motherland, and with those raw materials, they're finishing the product. They're then forcing that weaker country to purchase the product. So they always have a favorable balance of trade. So Portugal and Spain are very much driven by the mercantilistic concept here. So this is how we have Spanish influence coming into the Western Hemisphere. And as you see here on the map that I told you would shake down here, this is Columbus as far as, you know, coming to the New World here. Okay, so you just see that visual there. All right, moving on. One thing that is going to transpire that you need to know very much is Old World, in which we would associate as Europe, to the New World. These worlds are now going to collide. Right, so you can see this visual here. Of huge importance was the biological flip-flop of old and new worlds. Simply put, they would trade life such as plants, food, animals, germs for that matter. And yes, germs would be what your Mesoamerican Indian would receive. So it is safe to say that they were, of course, on the losing end of the exchange. From the New World, America, to the Old. Okay, so here are some things you're going to have here. There again, from the New World to the Old. Corn, potatoes, tobacco, beans, peppers, pumpkin, squash, tomato, wild rice, etc. Okay, so there again, what does this do? Over the course of time, this blows up the population of Europe. You're strengthening the diet, you're creating an element of health, and so therefore it is a major positive to the European world. From Old World to the New, however, you would receive cows, pigs, horses, wheat, sugarcane, apples, cabbage, citrus, carrots, and certain types of grass seed. However, I guess the biggest factor would be the devastation of a particular disease. And of course, that disease, you probably know it, yes, smallpox, yellow fever, malaria, as Indians had no immunity to. They had no immunity built up in their system, and so therefore the disease itself is going to really take its toll on the Mesoamerican Indian. So there again, that is the shakedown of the Columbian Exchange. All right, the question is asked, who benefited the most from the Treaty of Tordesillas, 1494? Now, you have to remember this, there is kind of a land dispute in sort of from an international perspective. Now, in 1494, we don't have what we would associate as far as making decisions, let's say the U.S. Supreme Court. We don't have a Supreme Court, we don't have an international board, a United Nations, we don't have any of that yet in 1494. So anytime there is kind of a land dispute, who makes the decision? Who decides what is what, so to speak? The Pope. The Pope is the individual who is in charge of the decision-making process. And so Portugal and Spain, they have a situation here. They feuded over who got what land. So the Pope drew this line as he was respected by both. The line ran north to south and chopped off the Brazilian coast of South America. There again, as you see here, all right? Portugal got everything to the east of the line. Now, bear in mind, Portugal already has this in their pocket. So really the only thing that they're gaining new, is this right here, okay? Spain, there again, is going to get everything west, okay, of that. So I'll leave it to you as far as, you know, who got the better end of the deal. Or you can see that Spain, of course, got the better end of the deal. So there again, they got west of the line, which turned out to be much more, though they really didn't know that at the given time. All right, so over the course of time, you will see here the development of the Spanish Empire that you see here, okay? All right, that concludes the notes for today. Tomorrow we will pick up on the Spanish conquistadors. So stay tuned for that. Have a nice day.